Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Bell.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
Freely. Present. Harrison.
Here.
Hinkleman.
Here.
Majerick.
Here.
Meeks.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Ballrath.
Here.
Werfel.
Here.
Yarborough.
Present.
Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 present.
Great, thank you. Minutes from 3 weeks ago, 17th of March, need to be approved. Anyone want to do that?
So moved.
Moved by Scott, supported by Meeks. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, I understand we have communications from the North Country.
Yes, you received 2 resolutions, both from Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners. The first resolution urging state legislators to amend the Michigan Auto Insurance Reform Act to address a reimbursement cap for auto accident victims received on March 18th. The second resolution, solidarity with the residents of Ukrainian descent, received on March 18th. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We'll verify that yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask a question about that. Is there any possibility Berrien County would want to make a comment or a resolution regarding that insurance thing? We have a family here that is in that position with a total handicapped person, and it's all over.
I think
I don't know
that's,
how to do it,
I
but
think that's under your committee.
under
actually,
finance? Okay,
If you want to do it,
so we could look at that next week?
if you wish. You're the committee that would have primacy for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
I didn't know how to do it, what to do.
Okay, all right.
I'll bring
Well,
it up.
if there's nothing else, we'll go into the presentation by Paul Jancha on the Emerging Adults Task Force. Paul.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Jancha, Chief Public Defender. It's an honor to be here. You all, half of you have heard about this proposal, I believe, and it's an honor to discuss it in front of the full Board of Commissioners. I'm here to talk about an opportunity, Berrien County, to create an emerging adult task force. Really 3 topics. 1, the opportunity, 2, the problem, 3, the solution. MIDC, as you all know, has revolutionized adult indigent representation. Berrien County was ahead of the curve by creating the Public Defender Office in 2017 and is a statewide leader. These standards were not the law until 2018, and we've been ahead of the curve and continue to be. However, there is a gap that exists in Michigan for our youth. I'm talking about now emerging adults, which is really a term of art discussing those ages 25 and under. This is an opportunity for Berrien County to be the tip of the spear for statewide policy change. I'm requesting permission to ask for special project funds from MIDC to reopen our current FY22 budget with 0 increase to Berrien County and the local share, which is approximately $569,000 for this year. This is a special project funds request, which would not have any increase in this year. The problem, during our 2021 annual family division contract reviews, which we do every year, however, not having corporate counsel until this year, I was able to spend a great deal more time doing those reviews this year and actually going on site and visiting and speaking to the staff. There's been a serious lack of in-custody meetings with our youth clients in Berrien County, and our youth are not getting to fully participate in their own defense. There have not been the opportunities for them to meaningfully review their discovery, and this is unacceptable. Our Constitution provides for an adversarial system where the state's evidence is tested by the defense. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Trials are a natural and healthy part of the system functioning correctly. In our juvenile court, there has been 1 jury trial in the last 6 years. Jury trials are a healthy product of this system, and that's a symptom. Marginalized youth, as you all know, or may not, but they start out behind the 8 ball many times in these prosecutions. Youth very often waive their rights when they meet with law enforcement. That is not to say that we do not want excellent quality law enforcement, which we have in Berrien County. We have excellent law enforcement in Berrien County. But that does not alleviate the fact that these youth have not had a traditional upbringing, and they very often waive their rights. They have not had the same social cognitive development as folks who would not be considered marginalized youth. And having a record sets them on a path, a lifelong path in many instances. To exacerbate this issue, ladies and gentlemen, you've probably been emailed the full memorandum that I wrote. Attached to that was publicly available family division data that outlined some statistics that were concerning. So there's been a significant increase over the last several years in waiver motions filed by the prosecutor's office to seek to bring youthful clients into adult court. The trend in 2019 to 2020 was a downward trend. There was actually from 2019 to 2020, a downward trend of 15.3%. In the number of motions our prosecutor's office filed to try to bring these youth into adult court. From 2020 to 2021, there was a 356% increase in the number of waiver motions filed by our prosecutor's office seeking to bring these youth clients to adult court. Along with that, there was an increased trend in the number of multiple prosecutions of the same youth. From 2017 to 2021, 178% increase in the number of youth charged with at least four formal charges. From 2020 to 2021, an increase of 108%. There's been a sharp increase of prosecution of our youth. In the family division data, you will notice a decrease in the total number of formal prosecutions of youth. However, that same trend does not bear out for our minority population. Minority population has increased in number of formal prosecution and also proportion of prosecutions in Berrien County. So this is the problem that we see during this annual review. There is a solution. You have before you really a distilled version of the memorandum that I've submitted to the subcommittees that outlines the special projects funds request. I have already, this document was created by our MIDC regional manager to help distill that request. And it's a prorated for June, July, August, September of this year, a prorated request to create a special task force in Berrien County. 4 staff members would be an increase of 4 to our complement, 2 attorneys, 1 social worker, 1 investigator, to elevate the service offered by Berrien County to our indigent youth. Our goal would be to take on the most serious cases and those that have been before the system a number of times because they qualify for our services. So right now, these juvenile clients are represented by independent contractor groups. However, the MIDC Act does allow us to expand the definition of adult to those who are charged with certain specified charges, but also those that have sort of repeated contacts with the system and then could be subject to being brought up to adult court. There's 4 different categories of those clients. So our goal would be to take on the most serious cases, clients, make sure that those clients are receiving the service that they deserve, and offer a complete defense, the best defense that we can, and the defense that our Constitution requires we provide to these clients. So our goal would be to elevate this service. We need to work with this contract group because our office cannot represent all juveniles in Berrien County because they don't meet, many of them don't meet the definition of adult. Obviously, if they a younger client charged with a simple offense, that client is not in jeopardy of being brought to adult court. We can't represent them because we're limited by MIDC funding. However, we can take on the most serious cases. That would be our goal. In preparation of this proposal, I've connected with the University of Michigan. They have a juvenile department over there. We've had some meetings with them, and I would intend to participate in training of this task force with them. I connected with a group called Lawndale Christian Legal Center in North Lawndale, Chicago. It's a very cutting edge holistic defense firm that only represents youth in North Lawndale, which is it's a tough neighborhood in Chicago. We learned a lot of lessons there. Certainly could not implement their model because we operate within as a county department and also as a part of MIDC. We operate within the minimum standards, but certainly the culture, the lessons we learned from them, they've had an impact on us, and we intend to implement the culture in representing these clients. Really, what that is it's about meeting the clients where they are, understanding why they're there, why they've made the choices they've made, if the state can prove the case. What can we do to connect with them, to convince them that they can change the course of their lives, that the government cares about them and will help them to change the course of their lives. That is our plan. A significant component of this is a promise to MIDC to deliver significant data and narrative reporting about these clients, and they are hungry for that data. They want to elevate youth representation because their goal is to protect the fundamental due process rights of every indigent person charged with a crime in Michigan. This would allow them the opportunity to take a very close look at juvenile representation in Michigan, and Berrien County would be the focal point of that data collection. This plan would use existing office space. Our plan would be to locate this task force in Niles to create a collaborative workspace for them there, working with building and grounds for materials that we already have. Some of those cubicles that we miss from 100 Church Street, we're going to put them in Niles because that's going to be a good collaborative workspace. We're not going to be dividing them up, but that's the space we intend to use. Task force, again, would take on the most serious cases in those youth that most needed the help. As a part of this, you have a sort of a drawing there that outlines a community outreach project. It's called the Twin Cities 3-on-3 Tourney. The Public Defender Office is intending to partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Benton Harbor and all of the law enforcement agencies of the Twin Cities to reach out to our youth and to improve the relationship between law enforcement and the youth in the Twin Cities. So far, we have unanimous support from law enforcement here in the community. I think the community hungers for this type of interaction, and we intend to have a genuine connection between our law enforcement and our youth. So the highlights. This proposal is fully funded with special project funds. There's no increase to Berrien County. We're limited by our local share, which is a historical number based on 2010, 2011, and 2012. So it has no impact on the local share. This would be cutting edge, unconventional work, elevating the service provided by Berrien County. I do have a couple of updates. So I've been meeting with the staff. We've talked about kind of where our budget is right now. We've been running under budget because, like so many departments, we haven't been fully staffed. So I'm discussing this with the grant manager at MIDC as well as our regional manager. There's a chance we don't need any additional money from them right now, but if we do, they would give it. I have a meeting actually tomorrow with the research director, Dr. Jonah Siegel from MIDC. So we have the best understanding of how do they want the data from Berrien County so that they can best use it. LCLC, Lawndale, wants to visit us to learn from us. That may happen within the next couple of months, but certainly there's more training to be had there. If approved, this proposal is already on the MIDC schedule for April 19th. And so I am asking for your approval to seek the special project funding to implement the task force, to change our complement so that we can elevate the service for these clients. We believe that we can prove that intense, unconventional support for marginalized youth is more effective than punishment and deterrence of the traditional approach. So I would ask your support for moving this forward, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
This is an area where you have primacy. Any thoughts?
Yeah, we've been presented the information from Paul previously, and we fully support the emerging adults. Yeah, we fully support that program.
Anyone else on the
Dave?
committee?
Don?
Dave?
Agreed.
Okay. Good. Okay. All right.
Yep, we all agree.
Anyone else have any questions for Paul? Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. I would like to know, how will this affect? We have companies that are attorneys to juveniles. That will continue those.
That's an excellent question, ma'am. So we need contract groups. Now, we only had one bidder for this contract last year. It is up at the end of this year.
Okay,
We need excellent contract groups for the juvenile cases because we simply can't represent all of those youths because they would not fit the definition of adult. So we will need to continue with those groups. However, a very good question is, well, we're taking the serious cases off this contract. What does that mean? I've been working with corporate counsel on trying to find the best solution to that question. I see this as an elevation of the service, allowing hopefully that contract group to spend more time on those cases that they have. But our priority has to be to fight hard for these youth that need it most. And so we would need to continue with them, to answer your question.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up on that statement?
Sure.
So that question has been discussed at the admin committee, and the reality is there was one bidder for the work. That bidder has been placed on notice about our dissatisfaction with the quality of the work. Paul's point is really critical. If he receives this funding, the funding does not allow him to take on all of the work. We will continue to have a contractor available to cover the additional caseload. We are working through the process to notify our current contractor what we're doing here. We have already put them on notice about our dissatisfaction with the quality of some of the work, but we are also in a position where we don't have other bidders who are desirous of taking this on. We don't have the ability to walk away from them entirely. It is my hope that if this experiment goes well, it's my hope that long-term we could move from contracted to the public defender's office, but we are not at that point today.
Thank you.
Any other, yes, sir.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to voice my full support of this initiative. I think it's a critical step in the right direction when we're talking about just trying to solve the problem of, trying to, direct troubled youth in our community onto the right path. As someone who, if I were to get into trouble, will fall into this category as an emerging adult, I do understand and notice the lack of direction that some of our youth have when they get in trouble, understanding just how to go through the process of, going through the cases and everything. And so I commend Paul and his office for what they're doing, noticing, the gaps that exist in our community and taking initiative to trying to fix and close that gap. So I support this fully.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
What's gonna happen?
Well, I was just going to ask the admin chair where this is in the resolution process.
I will be introducing the resolutions to you today for approval for next Thursday.
Okay, very good. All right, next thing on the agenda, and Paul, we appreciate you coming. You don't offend us if you have to take off, so thank you. We're now to where we get public comments on the resolutions on the agenda, and that includes the two added resolutions, that MOU, and what's the other one? Oh, the contract with Midwest Strategy. The MOU is the one that the health department touched on at the 8:35 meeting. So any public comments on those resolutions? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar, including added resolutions ending in 4226 and 4230 respectively? Yes, sir. So moved. Moved by Scott. Is there support? Supported by Bell. Is there discussion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Curran,
Yes.
Freeling,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Hinkleman,
Yes.
Majerick,
Yes.
Meeks, Scott,
Yes.
Walrath,
Yes.
Werfel,
Yes.
Yarborough,
Yes.
Bell,
Yes.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 12 yeas.
Thank you. We'll now segue to committee reports, and we'll begin with PHS, Mr. Chair of PHS.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our meeting this morning. We reviewed a number of resolutions that you just acted on. We have several coming up in addition next week. One related to elected official salaries, one on the public defender addition, monetary contribution for the linear trail. So you'll be hearing more about those next week. We did have 2 requests for advanced step hires, one from the health department and one from community development, and both of those were approved. We also looked at the evaluation form that will be used for staff evaluations, and that also will be coming to you at a later meeting. We had a in detail resolution or presentation from Lex Winan regarding GIS services. And we did approve in-kind donation to the Conservation District for the publication of the plat books. And so we expect that to take place. And then we had, we both talked with our administrator as well as our county chair. And that pretty much concluded our work of business, I believe, gentlemen. Anything that I missed or touched on?
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for PHS? Hearing none, we'll move down the line there to admin. Mr. Admin Chair, what say you?
Thank you, Mac. Everyone should have a red folder in front of them. Our first department that was in this morning was the Sheriff's Department. Paul Bailey, our sheriff, and along with him is Deputy Dave Albers. And I asked Dave to stay just for a few minutes so he can make the presentation. In that red folder, you're going to see the command vehicle that they have been working on, and we are ready to move forward on that. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave. David will briefly explain the process and what's in that red folder. And then probably within the next couple of weeks, we'll have an authorizing resolution because it's going to take, what did you say, 18 months? 18 months to get it built. So Dave, please.
Well, several months ago, in actually August of last year, we formed a committee and have been working since on developing a mobile command vehicle. As you probably saw, we brought it out and showed everybody the old one and a press release on getting rid of it because it was not of good use anymore. So we formed a committee, we researched and we talked to many different manufacturers, and we developed the plan and we sent out for bids, and we received a bid from LDV Specialty Truck. And in the folder is kind of a summary of their bid and a summary of the vehicle. The first couple pages are a diagram explaining the vehicle. And then there is the actual layout written out, explaining the overall concept of the vehicle. And then it's broke up into 3 different compartments. There's a conference room, then there's a workroom with a dispatch center and a workstation with computers, and then a center area that has microwave, refrigerator, and another independent workstation. The purpose of the mobile command vehicle is broad. We see it as being used almost constantly. We want it to go out to any local event. We want it to go out to anything that happens emergent so that we have a place for people to go and actually establish the proper incident command. Right now, we do that sparsely in vehicles and sometimes standing out in the rain, trying to figure stuff out, or instead of having a place to go inside and actually meet and figure stuff out. And we have, a lot of things that happen on the emergence around here, that from, drownings to vehicle pileups to large fires. There's no end to the emergency situations that it would be used in, but also for special events, for all the festivals and everything that happen in every community throughout the county. And we want it to be used, it's the sheriff's department vehicle. It'll have the sheriff's department logo on the side and what have you, but we want it to be used by and for everyone. And we're gonna establish, drivers who can use it and know how to set it up and take it out so that anyone who needs it can use it. Or we can deliver it, set it up, they can use it for their time period, and then someone will go and bring it back. And then there's photos. These photos are of a vehicle very similar in makeup to the design that we came up with, minus the satellite dish. We will not have a satellite dish on the top of ours because we didn't find any need for that. But it will have the camera tower that is shown in the photo. Then the second photo is an outside conference area, because when we have the incident command inside, they're figuring everything out, then we can have the operations people on the outside briefing their people directly from the incident command people inside, because they'll be on camera inside, but they'll be able to see it on the outside and get a briefing and be set up so that it's not crowded on the inside. And then it breaks out into the workroom, where they have the workstations for dispatch and a desk for people to do paperwork and so forth. Then it has a photo of the conference room, and then just another photo of one of the workstations. And then the next page is the bid, which was $802,848. That was the bid that came in. It was the only bid that came in, and the vehicle that they developed met every single thing that we asked them to put on it, exactly the way that we wanted them to put it on. The next page is just an explanation of how right now it will take 18 months approximately because of the shortage of materials and things. But they said that that's the max. So it could be less amount of time. And then a list of items to be purchased locally, because there were some things that we didn't have them put in because we knew that we could purchase them at a lesser price than what they would have charged us to purchase them and put them in. And then the final pages are letters of support, starting with Spectrum Lakeland, and then the president of the Chiefs of Police Association, Road Department, the Health Department, and the Parks Department, all showing support for the purchase of a mobile command vehicle, because all of them see a use for it, and all of them know that we'll be able to use it in any other situations. And the one from Spectrum isn't Spectrum Pole, it's from the medical control officer for Berrien County, the head of EMS.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions? May I ask, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions of Deputy Elks?
Sure enough. Anybody have anything? Yes, sir.
So looking at the picture, it's a rather large vehicle. So
Yes, sir.
what's going to be the criteria for someone to be approved to drive it?
We actually have, I shouldn't say we, there is a course for large vehicle driving that the fire departments use. And anyone who's going to be the operator of the vehicle, we will actually put them through that course, which is 8 hours in a classroom and then actually driving on a tactical cone course where there's a practical of driving it.
I think the authorizing resolution gets you a ticket to drive it.
There we go. All right, great. Well, thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. I think it's exciting that some of these things that we've been working on for so long are starting to come right before us. In addition to the sheriff's report, everyone has access to this easily enough. The sheriff did want me to point out a couple of topics within this. One is, and I'll read this, it's the Berrien County Sheriff's Office Victim Services Advocates Program and Volunteer Chaplains Program, both started under Sheriff Bailey's watch more than a decade ago. Both are nonprofit organizations which use no county tax dollars to fund purchasing supplies, uniforms, books, etc. And the sheriff wanted to recognize the Connie Bear Law Firm, and specifically Barry Connie Bear, who helped them set up the 501c3, has been a major fundraiser and donor to the program, and that's contained within his report. He also wanted to recognize Shirley Zick, who was a volunteer with the Community Restorative Board and a victim services advocate, both for many years. She's retired and moving to Nebraska. So the sheriff and the prosecutor took her out for lunch to thank her for her volunteer service to the sheriff's department. Next, we had our indigent defense director, Paul Jenkins Jr. And two resolutions are coming for you next week in regards to his presentation this morning. Resolution ending in 231 is the emerging adult task force that he talked about. In the resolution, it specifies that if it's not funded, it will not be included in the budget. Resolution 233 is his budget, and it is in the amount of $4,592,552. And again, in this resolution, it also specifies that if that emerging adult task force is not approved by the state MIDC, that it will be removed from his budget. And he also stated this morning, and I'll reiterate, that the county's share has only been going up incrementally by the rate of inflation. We still only, I had it written down, it's like 559,000, I think, is our contribution. And that's pretty much stayed the same. It's based on, for those of you who were here at the time, from 2010, 2011, and 2012, it averaged out those 3 years. What we spent on indigent defense is the baseline, and it only goes up 1% since that. And at the time, I think it was right around 500 something. So that's all we put into the to the indigent defense office at this time. So those two resolutions were from Paul. I have a couple more resolutions that I'll continue on with. Resolution ending in 243 is to reimburse the county jail for expenses related to COVID-19 testing that occurred between October 1 of 2021 through June 30th of 2022. And that's in the amount of $620,959.66. We have another resolution for you, 225. This has to do with the Homeland Security Grant Program. I mentioned this once before about St. Joe County, our adjacent county, being the fiduciary for District 5. This is the resolution authorizing that agreement between us and St. Joe County. Resolution 234 has to do with the Virtual Academy Solutions. They provide a custom online training program for our 911 call screeners and operators. This will be to provide training for them annually in the amount of $2,070. That's it on the resolutions. That's pretty much it from the indigent defense department. And then we had our county chair and our county administrator in to see us. We have been working on the juvenile center. Brian has been doing quite a bit of legwork on finding a solution. The court had submitted a proposal to contract with an organization for the complete construction of the juvenile center and some other information that goes along with that from the court. What we decided is, instead of just going with one, because then it'd have to go to finance for a waiver and all that, we said, no, let's get more bids. Let's see what else is out there besides just this one that was brought to us from the court. So Brian is going to do that now within hopefully the next week or two. We'll try to get it as quickly as we can. But Brian's got a lot of things on his plate right now. So we understand, but we did want to get more bids than just the one. We talked a little bit about the trail this morning from this morning's presentation. Since Brian is fairly new, I didn't think he had heard from me in the past, because I asked from that presentation, is there going to be any resolution? Are we authorizing design, cost, whatever? And he said no, but I did want him to know that, and I've mentioned this to the board many times, I don't think he's heard it. I am not opposed to trails at all. I want to support the trails and build the trails as often as we can, as the money allows. But I do not support putting those trails adjacent to a highway that has a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I've talked to civil engineers, I've talked to a lot of traffic control people, and 35 miles an hour is the tipping point. Once you get above 35 miles per hour, you're putting those people in danger. And I noticed the statistics last year in Indiana went up because they were building their trails adjacent to a highway with a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. I heard on the news, on the radio this morning coming in, that pedestrian fatalities in Michigan are up. They've already had 17 fatalities this year. And, you know, we're only in what, April? That's not good. And the first thing that came into my mind was, how many of those were on a trail? And on a trail that's adjacent to a 55-mile-an-hour highway. So the presentation was done, is you're talking about Red Arrow Highway, which has a speed limit of 55. And all I said, I reminded Brian that I'm not opposed to anything other than the fact that I do not support trails being adjacent to highways that have a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. So now he knows. Everybody else already knows that. And my only concern there is just the safety. You know, down south of New Buffalo, that stretch of where they want to put the trail, and I think you heard them say it this morning. Marcy wasn't up there, but Marcy from Southwest Michigan Planning Commission and I went down there. And she said it'll be between US 12 and the Amtrak tracks. And I told her, I said, Marcy, someday you come down here and stand right here where you say this trail is going to go when an Amtrak train comes by here at 100 miles an hour and throws up all the debris. I said, do you want to be there, you know, with a stroller and your little kid in a stroller pushing them down the trail when that Amtrak train comes by? You know, just things to think about. So, and I get it. We've talked about that for quite a while. I think Ezra was the one that initiated it because there needed to be some discussion about that, and it's his area. So I appreciate the information, and you know, and that's just my thoughts on that. So we talked about that. And then we understand that Kevin
Jim?
Stack,
Interrupt for one.
yes,
Jim, I just want to make a comment that comes alongside that 55-mile-an-hour thing. You know that the full breadth of the eastern side of that figure 8 is M140. And I live on M140, and I can't imagine what a trail would look like there and how one would, and along the full length of it. And so I share your concern. That's all I wanted to say. It's frightening to think that you're going to put pedestrians out there alongside of that traffic out there. It really is.
thanks, John. And by contrast, I also pointed out, you know, when they talked about the trail, River Valley Trail going down in Niles Township, Niles City, they used the old train railroad in urban. So it's not adjacent to any highways. And even if it was, I think, what, South 11th Street is 45 maybe. Other than that, it crosses roads, but it doesn't go parallel to a road. And that's what I think of when I hear a trail. That's what I think of, because it's beautiful. I mean, it goes through woods, it goes through the creek. I mean, it's really nice. If you ever get down that way and take that stretch of the trail down the Niles, it's beautiful. And it's well off the roadway, it's safe. So I guess that's what I envision when I see a trail. But thanks for those comments, John. I understand. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm on the NATS committee, and though we haven't looked at new statistics at the trails, there is concern, and that's why they're building trails, that people are walking the roads anyway. And even if you get them 10 feet off, it is life-saving compared to putting them on the road, putting the bikes on the roads with the cars themselves. And that's what they were looking at 2-3 years ago. But the trails, we really haven't had any discussions about them yet and the safety of them. But that was concerned a couple of years ago when they were talking about pedestrians.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else?
One more comment, one more follow-up. How does a sharing the road, you get it with the pedestrians out there, but you got a bidirectional state highway in M140. And and a highway that agricultural equipment frequents. I mean, it's on a lot. So it typically takes the berm at this point in time and then consumes a portion of the lane in the direction that it's moving. And how does that even happen with any type of a linear park? I mean, that can't be easy, that can't be accomplished easily. You know, somebody's gonna swerve out into traffic to avoid a pedestrian, depending on who and what uses it. I understand the concept, but it's very difficult to have it happen and hope that it all goes well. So,
Right.
Well, being a walker on a street that we just approved a 40 mile an hour speed limit, where we're walking in the road, there's no aspect of safety to that.
No.
I mean, that's the reality. And so it doesn't matter whether you're going 55 or 40, if a car hits you, it's gonna do significant damage. The other is a bike rider, having ridden on Red Arrow, M140, and virtually all the roads in Berrien County. I think moving them off of the roadway, out of the roadway, onto a trail, even if it is adjacent to, Red Arrow or M140, is a vast improvement than what's going on today. And so I think we shouldn't jump to any conclusions or form assumptions until we're at the point where we're making a decision about what we're gonna do.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
I'd just like to make a comment on that also. And I've said this also too, and Jim and I have talked about this, is I don't really understand the safety aspect of it, of moving and having a 10-foot buffer in between the roadway and then the non-motorized path, when right down here on Red Arrow and Shoreham is a 2.5 to 3 foot wide bicycle path next to vehicles that are going 35, 40 miles an hour. And there is no buffer. So that was my only point. So it's going to be different wherever it is. But on the other hand, you don't hear of a lot of bicycle accidents in New York when the people who are delivering stuff are weaving in and out, just like in Chicago.
Yeah.
But so I guess it is what it is.
Thank you. And my position may be a little bit clouded because of my background. I've seen things people do with cars that you would not imagine they could ever do that with a car, but they did. So anyway, thanks for all the comments on that. And I understand Kevin was into finance, talked about a change order for the Napier Bridge. We okayed that as well and told Brian to go ahead and put forth a authorizing resolution for the additional amount. We were okay with that. And that's our report.
okay. Any questions for admin that have not already been asked? Apparently not. So, good. And for what it's worth, when feasible, I am a big fan of a green strip between the traveled highway and the trail, be it for bike, walk. People still inline and skate. They do that in Florida, I noticed, but whatever it happens to be, because it's just so much safer. So, Madam Chair of Finance, you're on.
Thank you very much. What I would like to do is to give you a report of Thursday, March 24th. We were here and there were not enough commissioners for us to be able to do our committee of the whole or to do our board meeting, but we did have the Berrien County Finance Committee. And because we had some commissioners here that were, their committees were not there, we joined together. And so in our committee, Finance Committee, it was Yarborough, Scott, Werfel, and Meeks, and we did a good job. And I think it was good that they got to hear, some of the things that we do. We had all the presentations. And so what we did was we did bid openings with Jake Lideker, who is our financial analyst, and there were 6. And all of those had someone to bid on them, may have been just one at some time or two, but those were passed. And then we had waiver requests for approval. And I just want to tell you what those were. The one was a priority dispatch, emergency medical dispatch quality performance review service. And the other one was priority dispatch, artificial intelligence and data analytics tool for quality assurance. And so those were accepted. What is the word we use?
Consensus.
Consensus. Consensus we did with those. And then we approved the weekly bills and approved the minutes of March 17th. And then today we had our finance committee meeting. And again, with our financial analyst, Jake Lediker, we had bid openings for the road department, and there were 11 different bids that we did. And they were on bridge inspection, on maintenance, bituminous mixtures, corrugated metal pipe, prefabricated signs, reflector signs, sign posts, metal, all kinds of things. We're going to be busy, and you see that already, even before the weather has gotten right. They're doing a lot, and that's federal dollars, state dollars, Act 51 dollars. So we're really busy. So we ask you all to be careful and observe the cones and the signs, and just hope this to work well and that not be any accidents or anything with you or the workers. You know, let's just do this so it can be done. Then we had waiver requests for the county, and these were they all road department? Yes. There was, the majority of these were the road department, administration, and information systems, so we did those. They're listed, you'll be able to see them. I don't want to have to read them. We accepted the minutes for March 24th. We have a new system going with the bills for the road department. We have something that we signed approving the number, the millions of dollars, but it's now will be connected with that resolution. The bills will be, it'll be one vote that we do, and you'll be able to see what it is that you're signing for. What's that? Oh, at the, on Fairplain Avenue, which is Mall Drive. I was trying to think of where that was, but it's I call it the new road, but it's 20-something years old. And Kevin Stack explained to us that there has been $485,000 that was left from when that road was first built. It could not be spent on anything but that road. And that is why they're able now, they're going to start next week to work on the road. There's so many people that ride their electric wheelchairs there, that walk, that whatever. So they're going to do to make a side and to make it safe. And they're able to go much further than they thought they could, you know, doing the so many miles or so many feet, but they're able to go all the way to the end of it, which is, I have to tell you what stores are there. I don't know north and south, to the end of the road, starting at M139 when you turn in, all the way to, you go to, what is it, Goodwill, and turn left, and they're able to go that way also. So into Mall Drive, maybe that's what it's called. So you'll see a lot of construction everywhere. And that's what we ask you to be careful when you drive or walking, riding your bike, sitting there, because they couldn't do anything else with it. That's all I remember. You all have anything to add to it? No. That's
Okay, thank you. Questions for finance? We'll go to commissioner reports. We'll start here and go clockwise.
Very briefly, I just wanted to let the board know that we hosted the Berrien County Broadband Internet Task Force workshop on the ARPA funds that we're doing as a sub-grant. Well attended, lots of great questions, and we've already been receiving inquiries about it and applications. And so that will be continuing to move forward. The other two things that I just wanted to highlight that were great for Berrien County, I was asked a couple months ago about being a keynote speaker, though I thought I was just going to be a panelist for an organization called Next Century Cities. And so I was actually the opening keynote speaker, and I was able to highlight the work that Berrien County has been doing as it relates to broadband and just the innovative approach that we've been taking. And then lastly, I was asked to speak at the Baroda Area Business Association's social mixer, kicking off their season. And again, had a chance to highlight our strategic initiatives, the work that we've been doing, and also highlighting broadband as it relates to our efforts here in Berrien County. So that's my report. Thank you.
Let us know next time so you can look out in the audience and see somebody you know,
Yeah.
because I'll come.
Sounds great.
That was online, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
it's
was,
virtual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good, thanks, Bob.
Yesterday, we had the health board meeting. If you remember, I'm your liaison to that group. We had heard the presentation on efforts about lead in the water in Benton Harbor. And so that I really feel good about the work that they're doing there. We also looked at 3 grants that will be coming to you later. They're from United Way, one for Nurse Family Partnership, one for Healthy Babies, and the other is the Positive Parenting Programs. These are all continued grant programs supported by the United Way. And the last thing that they did was elect Dr. Ken Edwards as the vice chair of that group. With the resignation of Joe Wasserman, they selected Dr. Edwards to be vice chair.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Great.
So a couple of weeks ago, we were at the annual legislative conference for MAC, Michigan Association of Counties, along with our county administrator and Commissioner Werfel, Commissioner Harrison, and Commissioner Yarborough. It was fun, as always, attending the MAC conference. And while we were there, we also met with some of our state legislators, Senator Kim Lasada, Senator Eric Nesbitt, and Representatives Pauline Winslow and Brad Paquette. Like I said, it was amazing meeting with them and discussing some of the things that we're doing here in the county. I also attended the Community Corrections Advisory Board meeting, and we just did some adjustments to the budget. Things are good there. We got some reports from the sheriff's office, as well as what's going on in the courts. And I also attended the MAC judiciary meeting where we just went over some of the platforms of the judiciary and public safety committee of MAC. So that concludes my report.
I attended the BC Bit workshop along with Commissioner Freeland and Commissioner Scott. I thought it was well received. And the presenters, which have been Brian and Dan Fetty and John Eaglehoff, did an excellent job in sending the message out. So it's building support. That's my report.
I also attended, as Commissioner Bell said, the MAC Legislative Conference. And one of the committees I went to, or the speeches or whatever I went to, was on an HR session, which I let Brian and Shelley know about, to watch that. I would also encourage all of you to go to the MAC website and listen to that, because they really highlighted and talked about the new human resources and how to attract people, how to get people, and how the landscape has completely changed. So if Brian and Shelley bring forward to us any of suggestions, or they need our support on it, so that you've seen what's really going on out there in governmental HR. This is not related to private industry, but it's how governments can compete now with those HR solutions. So I'd encourage all of you to go out there and watch that session. It was 30 minutes, probably a 30-minute tape, so it's not very long. Also had the MAC HHS committee meeting. We just discussed the mental health situation and came up with some ideas for MAC to use as here's some possible solutions. Not only do we just not oppose it or we're just opposing it, but here's some solutions that would help it that may be better so that they have something to go in with to try and fix it, if you will, if it even goes through. So that's still very up in the air. I do have MAC Ag Committee next week. So John, if you had a chance to look at any of those, I'd appreciate your feedback on that so I can bring that back to them. That's all my report.
No report. I have nothing to report.
I attended both of the BC Bit meetings, was well attended. A lot of information came from us and a lot of information we got from the municipalities. And then yesterday, I, along with the corporate council, we attended the Sewage and Septic Appeals Board. It was a very busy day yesterday. We approved 2 permits and we tabled 1 for insufficient information.
Yes, and I too attended the MAC conference and I thought it was very well done. And being with our commissioners, this was great. It's valuable to have time to walk. They walked me so many places. But to be together and get to know each other and to spend time together and just your thoughts. And it was a good conference. I met other people. They seemed more friendly, or maybe in Mackinac, I don't know what it was, but we sat together with different people and talked about different things. Or one said, I'm the one you read about the paper, or whatever. So it's a valuable thing, and I encourage our commissioners to go to. They have a couple a year. Go to something so that you can know more. That's fine.
Very good, thank you. Did you have anything to share?
I got a few things there. Thanks to the BC Bit members for sitting through not 1, but 2 sessions. Thanks to Dan, to Thaddeus, to Kim Fedison, and to Annette for all of the work they put into setting up those sessions and making sure that they ran smoothly. Everybody keep your hands down if you've had email issues. Yeah. So Chris Feihart and his team have been working their tails off on doing email upgrades. It's been a major pain, but our team has been really working to get all of it rectified. Over 800 PCs, laptops, et cetera, that had to be addressed. So Chris, if you're listening, thanks. To the board, I just wanted to point out a few names today. So we had Guy, Chioma, Kevin, Paul. I feel like those 4 people just did a really good job of representing what the county does. And so you had the health department, the road department, and public defense. Leadership from each of those departments did a really good job today talking to the board about programming. And they're really trying to work with you all to have complete transparency on the delivery of those services. And they understand that they're taking the direction from the elected leadership. So today we had a little bit of a spirited discussion about trails. We're going to keep beating this thing to death. We're going to get to the point where we have adopted policies and completely understood procedures between your road department, you all, and then to the local units. So I couldn't have been happier with the feedback that we're getting. Kevin's just looking for direction. And between myself and Kevin, we will keep coming back and we will steer into this thing until we have a clear understanding of what the goals are from the board and how best to implement those at the local level. So thank you. To Guy and Chioma, I've seen that presentation they gave today a couple of times, and Chioma is really just knocking it out of the park. So earlier this week, she gave that presentation to the Benton Harbor City Council and walked out of there with a signed memo of understanding. 2 months ago, I was not confident that we could ask our staff to go into Benton Harbor handing out lead filters and not have doors slammed in their faces. So this has been really interesting as far as the media coverage of the drinking water crisis, the state's investments into the drinking water system, and then at the local level, the city's willingness to work with the health department. So we will be implementing a very a very well thought out and planned media strategy to make clear that our staff is going to be providing these filters free of charge to Benton Harbor drinking water customers. And we will keep coming back and updating the board on how things are going. And then lastly, Paul. Paul is just great to work with. You can see every moment of the day his commitment to providing service. So this is something that I'm going to be following up with a big thank you to these folks. But if you see them, just pat them on the back. They're happy to work for you. They're happy to do a good job. And this is one of those moments where he got to see three very different operations all doing their best to provide service. Okay. Last thing I have is to Commissioner Bell. I hadn't been feeling old. And then your comments about your age just reminded me that I am officially old. So thank you for that. Yeah, those are my comments, sir.
Well, you did just have a birthday.
I did. And when he reminds me of his age, oof, it hurts.
Well, that's pretty hard to top, but we'll try. We're now to general public comments. If anyone wishes to be heard, try to keep it within 2 minutes. Tell us your name and where you're from.
Melissa Clapper, St. Joseph Charter Township. A few years back, I sat in this room as Judge Ruth brought forth the idea of the public defenders, or brought it more to the public. I also sat in this room as we interviewed our first public chief of defender. It's great to see how far we have come and that we've not stopped trying to improve that. And that was on view today with Paul. So we've been fortunate in all the people that we've had leading that department from the beginning. And I just want to say kudos for being willing to step out there and to keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Well, I think time's up. I'm sorry.
Hager Township. I got some news for you. I grew this beard because I wanted to see what my ancestors had to go through. I wanted to see how long this thing grows. Well, it stopped growing, so it's not going to grow any longer. I think I'm going to keep it for a while. Okay, so you see me. You may call me Neanderthal man, okay? I won't be offended. Okay, I want to make some comments on you guys shutting us off when somebody's making a presentation. You make us wait till the end. Now, where is that guy? I got a comment for him. Those guys come in here, they put something on the screen or they talk something, then they leave when they're done. And you expect me to wait till the end, an hour later, I forget what he's talking about, I got to write everything down. That is not fair. That is not very democratic, is it? And I know you go by the Robert's rules of disorder, I call it. Make people wait. I think that guy wrote that thing for the politician to shut us off. We got 4 people here, 5. And that's one of the reasons right there. Why should they come down here and somebody comes in with a fancy presentation and you have a comment to make, you raise your hand and you don't even recognize it. You got to wait at the end. Maybe that person's leaving, but I can't, what am I supposed to do, chase them? That is not fair. That's what I'm telling you. That is not very democratic. So I suggest you make a way, I don't know, something. You want to write up a resolution or whatever. If you want democracy, that's supposed to be our freedom and all the freedom we have here. Well, we don't. You're shutting us off. That is not right. I should have a right to comment on somebody that puts something on the screen.
2 minutes, sir.
I normally wouldn't comment, but we don't use Robert's Rules of Order, just so you know. And we have a comment opportunity on agenda items before we get to the agenda items. I understand what you're saying about presentations, however, and that's something we can look into. Thank you for bringing it up. Does anyone else wish to be heard? All right, we'll move to announcements and reminders. I was given a sticky note that says, remind commissioners, if they haven't worked with IS for their email, please stick around. I think that's for your tablets. Okay, well, next time.
They helped me.
Oh, they did already? Okay. So if you haven't gotten it, they're still here, back there. Anyone have any other business? All right, we're closed next Friday. That's Good Friday, but we will be here next Thursday. So